Hi, welcome to Mentoring for Coaches. Today we're going to talk about the feedback sandwich. This video is going to have two parts. One is everything around feedback in general and kind of how we've been doing it these days as a society and kind of what we're trying to move away from. And then the other side is going to be the actual session. So when we were creating this session, the feedback sandwich, we were thinking about feedback in itself. So just to recap what the feedback sandwich is whenever you want to give a criticism or tell someone to improve something or give them feedback, you never just give them feedback. You say something nice, then give them the feedback, and then you close again with something nice. So when we were creating the session, we were thinking about two things. One, why do we give feedback like this? And two, what else are we doing that might not be working that we can improve? So the first thing is, why do we give feedback like this? Well, the main reason is if we go straight with something negative or harsh or whatever it is, feedback, criticism, us as humans, we have a defense mechanism inside us. Based on some theories of psychology, just 13 different defense mechanisms are always trying to protect our ego so we don't go crazy. If we go straight in with something negative or criticism, a defense mechanism or a wall is very likely to come up. And so when we start off with something nice, you're able to bring down the wall and the person is more open to hear feedback. And what is the whole purpose of feedback? Is so that the person learns. A person is not going to be able to learn if they've got a wall. So that's the first reason why we do it. It's to genuinely allow a person to accept what you want to tell them, and drop the defense mechanism. Secondly, when it comes to giving opinions, we need to kind of realize, and this is a conversation we were having, was sometimes when we think we're giving feedback, we're not giving feedback. Sometimes when we think we're trying to help someone, we're not. I'll give you an example. If you tell someone, oh man, you're so lazy. You're just always lazy. You never wash the dishes. You never clean your room. Someone would say, oh, the person's telling that to motivate that person to then do it. It's not motivation, because look at the sentence. You are lazy. You never wash the dishes. Where is the good bit to drop the defense mechanism, then the criticism, and then the good bit again? That wasn't there. Which means that sentence was done with no wisdom. It was just a rant. That person was just complaining in that situation. The person wasn't actually trying to help the person become less lazy or more cleaner. You weren't, or whoever wasn't. So it's important that whenever we're speaking to people to realize, are we just complaining? And if we didn't follow this format, it probably meant we were just complaining. Or are we just trying to win an argument right now? If you don't do it in the feedback sandwich kind of way, it probably means that you're doing one of those. You're either just complaining or you don't care how the person feels. And we hear this a lot. A lot of people would say things like, I say it how it is. I give it to people real, raw. If they don't accept it, that's their fault. That is a concept we're trying to get away from. It's not true. Your whole purpose of communicating is so that someone else is able to understand what you say. That's communication. If it's one way and the person didn't get it, you weren't communicating. If we don't do it in this kind of way, we're not communicating. So we need to take this back to our own personal lives. When we're speaking to people, what's our purpose behind it? So that was like a really interesting concept. And then we thought children at this stage might pick up this negative way of being of, I'm going to say whatever I want on my mind. And if the other person gets upset, that's their fault. And we need to move away from, actually, whenever we say things need to be said with wisdom. And if we are just complaining and ranting, we need to make it very clear to ourselves that I'm just complaining right now. And that's okay. But don't try to say, I'm telling you something, you should listen, but I don't care how I'm going to say it to you. That's silly. That's like the equivalent of saying, you speak Japanese, I'm going to speak to you in my language, English, and if you don't understand it, that's your fault. It's not. We need to see how people understand things. And people understand things by when you say something nice, you allow them to drop the walls. That's the language other people understand. Then you say what you need to say. Then the person will understand. So this is kind of the concept we're trying to get through to children right now. And also we're trying to help students understand the difference between good and bad criticism, or useful and useless criticism. And we integrate this into the session using words like always. You're always like this. Oh, you're never like this. Or we attack the person. You are dirty, for example. I don't know. As opposed to your clothes are not clean. We need to move away from that. So, and then in the session, we go through how to actually do this. So let's talk about the actual session now. So the objective is to help students understand how to give criticism. You would know the aim has been, or the objective has been met, is when students are able to then give criticism in the feedback sandwich kind of way. So it starts off with a teacher drawing a circle on the board, drawing a good circle and then drawing a bad circle, and then asking for some feedback. And people will say how the circle should actually be drawn, as opposed to saying your circle is terrible. So it's kind of like a contrast between the two different ways of giving criticism. Then we say which one will be helpful. So we're trying to instill helpfulness first. They would say this will be helpful, that would not be. Why would this not be helpful? Oh, because that one didn't tell me how to improve. Okay, cool. So by actually telling the person also how to improve is useful. Okay, I will factor that in. So then we go through a list of comments, positive and non-positive comments. So if a person, for example, one of the comments here is, the leader of the group shouts, "You're just too scared to break the rules. You've got no guts." Is that a positive or a negative comment? Is that useful or not useful? It's not useful. There was nothing there to improve. A trusted friend whispers, "I don't think you should wear that to the party." Is that useful or not? Maybe not. Or if your mum says, "When you do it like this, it works a lot better." That's useful. So we give them those situations. Coach will come up with one scenario for each child. The child will then practice giving the criticism while making it useful with a reason why it will help the person. And then the summary is good to give criticism if it is useful. For the next week, we will be wearing our... Okay, cool. And then the follow-up session, so I guess this is a two-part session here, is... So the first session, since it's the first time, is we just tell them the difference between useful and not useful information. You know, they're quite young. They're 7, 8-year-old children. It makes sense. And then the second session, we're calling it a kindness sandwich, because that's the emotion we're trying to get to. The reason why in the corporate world it's become this like tokenistic, surface level thing, where people are like, okay, yeah, just tell me the good thing because I know you're just saying that so you can tell me the main thing, is because it's not really filled with emotional kindness. So we're now calling them kindness sandwiches. So we use this sandwich because for us to tell someone something and be allowed, in a way, we need to open their doors. Exactly what we talked about. The doors are opened by being kind. So we say something kind and enter the person's mind. We then give them the feedback we have, and then we leave and we close the door by being kind again. That's how we're instilling it through a metaphor for children. If we don't close the door when we leave, the things we told them will just fall out. I love this analogy. That's so beautiful. And then we give an example, and the coach comes up with 10 different examples. These can be examples. We don't want to define actual examples, but you can come up with as many as you want, and make them as relevant to the classroom or make them as relevant to the home, since it's a home and family session. Again, as always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or your head coach. See you guys in the next session.